Today, we will be discussing the California recall of Governor Gavin Newsom,
followed by the Texas abortion ban and what it could mean for other states.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Crystal Adler.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
And I'm Jorge Flores. As you can see, we are practicing safety during the pandemic and wearing our masks so that we can gather for today's episode of The Report. Follow us on Twitter at That Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram, Titan TV CSUF, to keep in touch with us and view our new content.
California is in the midst of a recall election in a Republican-led effort to replace Governor Gavin Newsom. Newsom's leadership throughout the COVID-19 pandemic has played part in frustrating Californians and questioning his emergency preparedness. After closing schools, limiting public capacities, and going back and forth on mask mandates, right-leaning parties are ready to replace Newsom. Election day will be September 14th, with mail-in ballots sent out to all California registered voters. Ballots must be postmarked, placed in a drop box, or delivered to a polling place by 8 p.m. on the 14th. What do you guys have to say about this? The only other time a governor in California was recalled was in 2003 after Gray Davis.
Well, in my opinion, this is historic already because just like you mentioned, it's history. Just few times governors, they get recalled. And this is very important because even President Biden is going to come next Monday, and he's going to be in Long Beach trying to campaign in favor of Gavin Newsom. We already saw how Kamala Harris, she was early this week coming also to California trying to campaign in favor of him. So whatever the result is, I need to say that from the Democrat Party, they are already spending more than $36 million for this campaign in favor of him, so that's already draining. What do you think, Amanda?
Well, personally, I think that, we should all go out and vote. I don't think there's a serious threat as long as we vote. So, for example, Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1 in the state. However, we should keep track of certain competitors, such as Republican Larry Elder, who stated that although he isn't against the vaccine, he wants to repeal mask mandates and vaccine mandates if he wins. So personally, I'm going to put in my ballot as soon as possible, hopefully this weekend, because I don't want to take any chances. So although I have controversial opinions about Newsom, I don't want to give way for Republican to become governor just in case the COVID crisis could worsen. So moving on to our next story. Recently, Texas legislation ruled to put a ban on abortions beyond 6 weeks of pregnancy, a violation of Roe v. Wade. Texas now has the most restrictive abortion ban in the country. The law bans abortion providers from performing a termination procedure after a heartbeat is detected in the fetus, typically 6 weeks after the mother's last menstrual cycle, although it is unlikely that the mother detects pregnancy in the first 6 weeks. Texas is the second state to violate the almost 50-year-long court case precedent. Roe v. Wade protects mothers' rights to have an abortion without excessive government restriction within 24 weeks of pregnancy. Texas is the first state to pass such an extreme violation of the preceding case. With the passing of the Texas abortion ban, the door is open for other Republican-led states to pass similar bills. The Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 majority to pass this bill, putting Roe v. Wade at risk. Overturning a preceding case may weaken legislation in other areas, not just in women's reproductive health. So everyone, this is big and disappointing news. So I just want to know, what are your thoughts regarding this bill, and what do you think the potential implications of this bill being passed are?
Well, I think that this puts us in a really dangerous position because we're taking a step back in history. Roe v. Wade came out of Texas, and now Texas is putting this ban on abortion again. So we're really taking a step back. Now, when it comes to women's bodies, the argument obviously has been men have no place deciding what a woman does with her body. On the other side, people are saying, well, the baby is not your body. And it is a very controversial situation. It's not something that I think it's black or white or has one easy answer. But ultimately, as a woman, I like the right to choose. If I were raped, I would like to make that decision. I'm not going to keep my rapist baby. I'm not going to go forward with this pregnancy. That should be my decision and my decision solely. With that said, I do feel that there should be limitations on how far a pregnancy is. Obviously, the earlier the better. late-term abortions, I think, are cruel itself. So I do think that there should be some kind of provisions as far as how late a person can have an abortion. But this is very disappointing news, like you said, Amanda. We're really taking a step back.
You know, Crystal, and I really agree with you and you, Amanda. I think it's something very important that we need to understand, and at least in my personal opinion, is also that women, they decide for their bodies. So why are we leaving men and their legislature to vote against or in favor of something that has nothing to do physically with their issues? I mean, it's different. So first of all, I think it will be very important to understand that point. The second one is that if we go more deeper into research, we know that that's something very true. Texas is just starting this super extreme rule, and now we have South Dakota, Florida, Arkansas trying to follow their steps. In my personal opinion, and what it makes me feel more very, very sad about it, is that it's very extreme. It's very, very extreme, the rules that they're taking, and I don't like personally that other states are trying to emulate this example. This should be not a good example for our country. Now, talking about some national news, President Biden's decision to withdraw American troops from Afghanistan last month from what he referred to as America's longest war has many Americans furious. Bipartisan groups are accusing the president of pulling the trigger too soon, calling the withdrawal a failure after a suicide bombers and gunmen attacked the Kabul airport, killing at least 100 people, including 13 U.S. troops. Biden is the fourth president to oversee the war in Afghanistan and set a date of August 31st to have all troops removed from the Middle East. This date is, of course, to commemorate the 20-year anniversary of terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001, that fueled America's war on terror with Afghanistan. Former President Trump appeared as a guest on Sky News Australia, where he said, "I have never seen stupidity like this. And they are trying the narrative that Biden go out like he's brave. He got out like a man that was just fleeing for his life. Withdrawal is fine, but you withdraw with dignity and victory." In a speech just after the Kabul attack, President Biden doubled down on his decision to withdraw, and in response to the American troops killed by the attack claimed by the Islamic State, said, "We will not forgive, we will not forget, we will hunt you down and make you pay." The last American troops left by Afghanistan aircraft on Monday, August 30th, ending the 20-year war with Afghanistan. U.S. Central Command Chief General Frank McKenzie said that in a press conference that all equipment and aircraft left behind has been demilitarized and will never be able to be used again. The Taliban spokesperson, Zabihullah Mujahid, said in a press conference Monday at the last resisting region of Panjshir had fallen. Zabihullah said that they wanted to take the region peacefully, but said resistors refused, so they took it by force. If true, that would mean that the Taliban now has complete control of Afghanistan. Hard news we have, guys. This is really, really important in the international spectrum. And I want to get your opinions. First of all, a lot of people, they're accusing Biden of not being very brave when it comes about defending our country. Most of us could think that, well, are we really secure after pulling out troops from a place that needed control? So what do you think about this?
Oh, no, this was an awful decision in my opinion. Even Biden mentioned this. He acknowledged that the withdrawal was, quote, hard and messy, end quote. And I think it's also important to recognize that according to CNBC, Sirajuddin Haqqani will be Afghanistan's interior minister. And this means that they will be in charge of the country's police and security. However, note that they're also on the FBI's most wanted list, and the Haqqani network has ties to Al-Qaeda. So Biden's saying these threats, like, as you mentioned, we'll hunt you down, we'll get you this or that, but how to have control of Afghanistan. And I think this particular tragedy will result in a threat to America as other terrorists become inspired by what happened in Afghanistan. What are your thoughts, Crystal?
As far as the decision to pull out, I think we $2 trillion. Thousands of people have died over the course of 20 years. We've been at a war in the Middle East. It definitely was time. However, I don't think that it was done the right way, and I think that it was done haphazardly because Biden had this benchmark date of pulling out by September 11th. So there was a lot of pressure, and I think that it was not done right. Hence, now we have 13 American troops who have died because of this, and that was claimed by the Islamic State, and but it's. I do think that we definitely should. It was time to leave. We spent, like I said, $2 trillion. Thousands of people have died, troops, civilians in Afghanistan, and it was time. But the criticisms he's facing now are saying, you're trying to reach this date, you're trying to pull out by September 11th, and now we have 13 American troops dead. How could he have done this differently? So yeah, I definitely too, it was time, but it wasn't done the appropriate way. But with Biden, he's doubling down, and he's saying that he did it, he would have done it again, and this is what we needed to do, and that he believes that he made the right decision. The Taliban had a press conference shortly after the attack saying this is a new government. They're declaring a new government. They seemingly have control of all of Afghanistan now. Women are protesting in the streets of Afghanistan saying that they do not want this regime. They don't want this government. They want to have rights. The Taliban is saying that they are willing to negotiate, but whether or not this is the new Taliban from or the old Taliban from 20 years ago, I think that remains to be seen. In more pandemic news, the pandemic has had a devastating effect on hospitals and healthcare facilities across the nation. LA and Orange County have been completely inundated with patients, but not enough staff to handle all of them. Some COVID patients being sent home from the hospitals with multiple medications and ventilators left to treat themselves because of bed shortages. But COVID patients are not the only ones who are struggling to receive care. The overwhelming needs of patients and the lack of staff are having rippling effects on patients who are sick with unrelated COVID illnesses. Many patients can't even reach a receptionist to schedule an appointment, and when they do, doctors are booked out at least 3 months. Caretha Williamson, a 46-year-old San Pedro resident, was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer and couldn't receive the treatment she needed because of staff shortages. The Long Beach Cancer Center she was receiving treatment at said that she was no longer approved for the treatment after she had already begun chemotherapy, no less. And why? The cancer center said there was a problem with her insurance, but she couldn't even reach anyone to clear up the problem, spending hours on the phone trying to speak with anyone, but to no avail. While she was fighting for her life, she was also fighting just to get someone on the phone to fix the issue, as she had no time to waste. Caretha joins us today from Georgia, where she went to receive her cancer treatment after she couldn't get the treatment in California. Hi, Caretha. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. And in speaking with you, hearing your story about being diagnosed with cancer at 45 and then slipping through the healthcare system, what has that been like during this pandemic for you?
It has been a total nightmare. It's been very scary. I've got 4 children, and I am literally just fighting daily, trying to not feel the pains, not trying to let it get in my head, and the things that the things that have developed that I'm feeling since I first started treatment. Well, my last treatment, it's gotten a little worse. So it's very scary, very scary.
And do you feel that during this pandemic, the healthcare system has been overwhelmed? Did that play a part in this delay in treatment?
Well, I would hope to believe that's what it is. I honestly haven't gotten any answers as far as why this is taking place. When I talk to the insurance, I've been trying to talk to insurance, the doctors, authorization departments, and I just get the same thing. They're trying to blame the next person. So I don't actually get an answer. I don't know if this is normal or because of the pandemic, honestly.
And you're in Georgia right now. Why are you in Georgia?
I'm actually in Georgia. I had to make the decision to come here for treatment because in California, my last treatment was June 22nd. Well, actually, it was before that. I was on my way June 22nd to have treatment, and I was told that my treatments had been denied. I had only had 3 treatments left. And to hear this news was very devastating and disappointing. I didn't understand why. And for at least up until now, I haven't received but maybe one treatment. I did receive one treatment, and then they were having issues again. So I decided to come here to Georgia because my family knew some great doctors here in Georgia. And here it is. I'm here. I start my treatment tomorrow.
Well, if healthcare workers are listening, if anybody is listening, what do you want to say to them about what you've experienced during this really difficult time?
Well, we're all in a fight. This is a pandemic, yes, but we all are obligated. Well, there are people in place that are obligated to do their job, and if not, communicate with your patients. Let them know what's going on so that they can have a better understanding. Don't just leave them out to dry. Like I said, I have 4 girls and I had to leave my babies there in California. They're not with me. I had to come here by myself to receive this treatment. Eventually, we are moving here, but it was just an urgency that I had to just get here and get started. So communication, let your patients know so that they can understand what's going on. Advocate for your patients. I had no one doing that for me. I had to, like I said, every day call the doctor's office, call the insurance, call my plan, call my group, call the authorization departments. Like literally, it's just so draining. That should be the least thing that a cancer patient has to do when she's fighting for her life.
I agree. And at the very least, I appreciate you coming forward and letting us know about this and sharing the story, because this transcends all different areas of medicine. And I can say with certainty that you are not the only person that this has happened to during this pandemic. And our thoughts are with you, and we truly hope that you get the care that you need. It's a very difficult time for you, and we're very grateful for you sharing that story with us today.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Coretha. We really appreciate it.
That was a really touchy story, and hopefully action can be taken into place. Now, moving into some CSUF news, getting back to campus after all classes were moved to virtual learning in the spring 2020 was exciting news for most of the returning to campus during a pandemic certainly has its provisions. With all the new mandates and guidelines, it can be very confusing trying to keep up with the school's policies. According to the CSU Office of the Chancellor, as of April 21, Cal State Fullerton aligned their protocols for handling COVID-19 with the UC school system. This means that effective immediately, all students, faculty, and staff were required to have at least their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine by August 21st. This will have allowed for all students, staff, and faculty to have already received their second dose of the vaccine with a fully vaccinated status by September 30th, 2021, unless a student has a medical or religious exemption. The school website added that COVID testing in lieu of being vaccinated is not allowed, but if students choose not to vaccinate, many courses will be offered online as an alternative to in-person learning. All students are required to wear a face mask indoors except when alone in a private workspace with a door closed, a living unit or vehicle, eating or drinking, showering, washing their face, or brushing their teeth in common facilities. Directed by the health care provider to remove the mask for care or treatment, or when accommodations is required or job duties, making wear a face mask covering infeasible or a hazard. COVID-19 testing is available on campus, and locations can be found on the CSUF Return website. The campus dashboard also offers updates on COVID-19 cases. In an email sent out by President Frank Virgie mid-March when the vaccine was not yet mandatory, President Virgie stated, quote, "While we urge every Titan to get vaccinated, it is not currently required. However, if we do not reach our goal of widespread vaccinations throughout our campus community, we will likely need to adjust into our in-person transition plans," end quote. Now, this CSUF news also brings us if the CSUF is doing right when it comes about this whole process. I understand it could be confusing. In my personal opinion, and I want to know yours, guys, is that I think that was a good action, that they gotta be required for vaccinations. But why? We know that there's a huge probability that if I am not vaccinated and I come here to school, probably the probability for me to get into contact and to spread the virus with you guys, that will be also increasing dramatically. So I believe that was a good action. However, I don't know if it was very properly to have all these confusions during the beginning of the year up to this moment. So what do you think so far?
I think that navigating the COVID process is obviously unprecedented, and I think that the school is doing its best to try to do that. Although there's been so many different types of communication coming out to students, and many students, including myself, were extremely just baffled by what was going on, not sure. We were told that we had to wear masks inside and not outside, and you can social distance being 6 feet. But there was a lot of information coming back and forth. I do think that the school is making the right decision. This gives us the opportunity to be on campus. This is my first semester actually on campus. And we're doing the report in person. So that gives us the option. And I think there's something to be said about the vaccine and having students vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated. I got fully vaccinated about 2 weeks before my youngest son caught COVID. And he's only 3 years old. He got it from his preschool. But at that time, I was drinking off of him. He was sleeping next to me. I had no idea he had COVID. I never contracted it. I was with him for 2 weeks while he had it. So I think there's really something to be said about that. And encouraging students to get vaccinated is a way of protecting the campus as a whole. So yes, like Fran Vergi said, our president, he said back in March, it wasn't mandated. We didn't have to have the vaccines. Now we have to have them. But of course, there are exemptions for certain students for medical or any other exemptions. But I think it is important for us to do that. And we have an alternative. Some students can do the online learning as an alternative.
I completely agree, Crystal. Look, we have online options. We have tons of testing sites on campus. We have a vaccination site. So honestly, I don't see the reason why someone wouldn't want to get vaccinated and help the general public here at CSUF. And what's interesting is that according to the Daily Titan, Ellen Trenner, the Vice President of Strategic Communications, stated that about 60% of students have uploaded their vaccination cards, which is approximately 25,000 students. So far, I think we're doing well, all things considered. And honestly, just to ensure that we're all staying safe here and to prevent the virus from ever mutating, I think why not play our part? And if you don't want to play a part, then stay home and take your online classes, in my opinion.
Correct. Now, I will add something into that, Amanda, that I will really encourage then to the CSUF directive that if we want to continue motivating other students to get vaccinated, then use social media. That would be great if we can have some social media campaigns trying to encourage other people to get vaccinated as soon as possible. And with that, that's all the time we have today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Jorge Flores.
I'm Crystal Adler.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As always, stay fresh, Fullerton.